Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down the big, complex stories into something you can actually understand. And today, man, have we got a good one. We're diving into a real head-scratcher from the biotech world, a paradox that even had Wall Street confused.
All right, so let's set the scene. The date is August 14th, 2025. There's this biotech company, Jaguar Health, and they're holding their big earnings call. You know, the moment of truth for investors. And what happened next? Well, let's just say it was brutal.
Just look at that number. The stock absolutely tanked. We're talking over 20% in a single day. Now, if you're an investor, that number is a massive, flashing red light. It screams one thing, and one thing only: failure.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting, that's not the whole story, not even close. Because buried in that very same announcement was some, genuinely groundbreaking clinical news. So you have this huge stock drop on one hand, and amazing news on the other. It's a complete paradox, and it left a lot of people just scratching their heads.
Okay, so let's start with the ugly part. Let's break down that 20% plunge. What on earth happened that spooked the market so badly? So here's the deal. It really all came down to the numbers. Wall Street, they're laser focused on those headline financials, and frankly, they were not pretty.
So check this out. Jaguar missed what the analysts were expecting on both earnings per share and revenue. And for investors, that is an immediate red flag, right? It basically tells them the company isn't hitting its targets and that the experts were wrong about its performance.
And this chart really puts it into perspective. Look at the scale of that miss. The company's loss per share wasn't just a little bit off. No, it was way bigger than anyone was bracing for. A huge miss. And it didn't stop there. On top of missing those big numbers, the company's overall losses actually got worse. Their net loss grew, their operating loss grew, and all of that points to one scary thing for a small company. They are burning through cash fast.
Okay, but remember what I said about a paradox. Those financials are only one side of the coin. Now, let's flip it over and look at the promise of their main drug, crofelemer. This is where the story takes a sharp turn.
So in the middle of all this bad financial news, the CEO, Lisa Conte, she steps up and tries to completely reframe the conversation. She's not talking about the money. She's talking about major scientific breakthroughs for their core drug, crofelemer.
Now, to really get why this next part is such a big deal, you need to know what TPN is. Think of it like this. It's basically a form of life support for patients whose bodies can't absorb nutrients from food. They get fed intravenously. So getting off of TPN is a huge, huge deal.
And the results they announced were, honestly, just staggering. In a groundbreaking study, their drug, crofelemer, managed to reduce that TPN dependency by up to 27%. And this was for children with an incredibly rare disease called MVID. That's a massive improvement. And that's not all. It also showed a reduction of up to 12.5% for patients with something called short bowel syndrome. Now get this, there are literally no other approved treatments for this condition. So yeah, stunning results is pretty much the only way to describe it. The good news just kept on coming, this time from their cancer trials. So here's the thing. The trial technically failed if you look at all cancer types together. But when they looked at the pre-planned subgroup of breast cancer patients, which, by the way, made up almost 2/3 of the trial, the results were a home run. Statistically significant success. So what does all this mean? It means the company suddenly has two incredibly powerful paths forward for its main drug. One for these rare GI disorders and another in the huge oncology market. A two-pronged attack, basically.
Okay, so this science is amazing, right? It's super promising, but it all costs a ton of money to develop. So the billion-dollar question becomes, how in the world is Jaguar going to fund all this without spooking investors even more? Well, that brings us to their big plan.
And their whole strategy, literally the whole thing, hinges on one key concept: non-dilutive funding. So what the heck is that? It's actually pretty simple. It just means getting cash without selling more shares of your company's stock. Think partnerships, licensing deals, grants, anything that doesn't dilute the value for existing shareholders. It's a way to get money in the door without punishing the people who already believe in you.
So the plan is to take all this fantastic clinical data and use it as bait, essentially. They want to attract major partners, big pharma companies, for both their human health drugs and their animal health products, like their dog diarrhea medicine. It's a 2-for-1 shot at a big payday.
And that, right there, sets up the central drama for Jaguar Health. It's a classic race against time. On one side, you have these incredible scientific breakthroughs, the catalysts, and on the other, you have that ticking time bomb, the dangerous cash burn.
And you can see here, they've laid out a pretty clear roadmap for the next year or so. These are the key milestones. Investors call them catalysts that could really unlock the potential and the value of everything they're working on.
So this really is the whole paradox in a nutshell. You have the bull case, the optimistic view, which is all about groundbreaking science, clear pathways, and huge potential. And then you have the bear case, the pessimistic view, which points to the ugly financials, the cash burn, and the risk that they'll have to sell more stock. It's science versus the balance sheet.
And that brings us to the ultimate question. Will their groundbreaking science win the race against their balance sheet? That's the one question that's going to decide Jaguar Health's future. And really, it's a perfect example of the high-stakes gamble that is the world of biotech.